Greetings, my scattered brothers and sisters in the Lord. Trust you're having a good day. Thank you for following along with me in this journey through the Gospel of John. Today we actually enter into John chapter 9. And you will recall that in chapter 8, it was rather intense that Jesus was teaching in the temple in Jerusalem, that Jesus asserted that he's the light of the world. Those who were following him and believing in him, he said that if you abide in my word, that you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. We also saw how Jewish leadership, in particular the Pharisees, were challenging Jesus, that they didn't need to be set free, that they were descendants of Abraham. And Jesus asserted that if they were descendants of Abraham, that they would actually be receiving him and believing in him. And instead, they're actually emulating the devil. And he called the devil their father, or called them children of the devil. And that the devil is the father of lies, that the devil is a murderer. And this just really incensed them. They insisted that they were descendants, that they were the offspring of Abraham. And Jesus told them that Abraham longed to see the day of Jesus. And then they understood Jesus saying that he saw Abraham. And Jesus came back and said, well, before Abraham was, I am. And when they heard Jesus invoke God's divine name, I am who I am, over himself, they were ready to stone him. They even picked up rocks. But Jesus simply walked out of the temple and got away from them. That takes us right into chapter 9. And it's pretty ironic that as we go into chapter 9, Jesus sees a man who is blind from birth. Now think about this. He was just in this huge argument, debate, conflict with people who could not see who he was. They could not acknowledge where he was from. And they were blind. And then Jesus leaves the temple, and the next encounter he has, he sees a blind man, a man who is blind from birth. The disciples asked Jesus a pretty significant question. Was this man born blind because he sinned, or because his parents sinned? And Jesus' response is that neither this man sinned nor his parents sinned, but this happened, he was born blind, so that the works of God might be displayed. And then Jesus spits on the ground, makes a little bit of mud, and smears it on the man's eyes, and then tells him to go wash in the pool of Siloam. And the word Siloam means sent. And so he goes and he washes and he sees, and he becomes a tremendous witness for Jesus, who Jesus is, that Jesus is from God, that Jesus is the Messiah, the Christ. Now, there's a lot to unpack with this story, and we're not going to unpack it all today. But the first thing, the only thing really today I want us to focus on is that Jesus sees the blind man before the blind man sees Jesus. That Jesus saw this man while he was blind, and he was blind from birth, and so he could not see Jesus, but Jesus saw him. Jesus came to open his eyes so that he could see. And we have been in John long enough to know that John speaks kind of layered. And so on the one hand, the man was actually blind, and Jesus came and healed him so that he could really see. But we also know that in terms of how John writes and kind of layers things, that we're all born blind, that we can't see Jesus at birth, that we are kind of lost in darkness. And Jesus comes to be the light of the world. Jesus sees us before we can see him. Jesus comes to open our eyes so that we can see him, and so that we can see the Father clearly, and so that we can become children of God, that we can be adopted into, born into this family. So that's the main thought I want you to get today, is that Jesus sees us before we see him, and he comes to open our eyes so that we can know him. And in knowing him, we can know the Father, and we can become part of the fellowship of the Father and the Son through the Holy Spirit, through the revelation that Jesus brings us. I hope this gives you encouragement for those who are still blind, that even though they may not see Jesus, Jesus sees them. And Jesus comes to open their eyes that they might see him, that they might know the Father, that they may be brought into the family, children of God. And so, wherever you're scattered today, and whoever is on your heart, know that Jesus sees, even if they're not seeing Jesus, and that Jesus comes to open eyes and to bring into fellowship and to give life. God bless. Have a great day, and take comfort in knowing that Jesus sees first.